When I was a teenager growing up in Sydney, Heartbreak High was all the rage. I wasn't allowed to watch it because my mum was super freaked out by the themes, but so many people did. Netflix has done a reboot. It touches on the subject of abortion in season 2, and that's today on The Dr. Jo Show. Before we get into the super gnarly abortion scene in Heartbreak High, I wanted to ask you guys to subscribe to this channel if you're not doing that already. It is really helpful and allows us to reach more people. So please hit the subscribe button and pass this video on to your friends. So a couple of weeks ago, I did a review on Kinda Pregnant, and I sort of said to you guys, I watched this so you wouldn't have to. And at the time, I got lots of messages from people saying, please do more reviews. I haven't done that because we've just been quite obsessed with politics on the show for the last few weeks. But I did get this wonderful tip off from one of you guys saying season 2, in the last 2 episodes, hits the issue of abortion of Heartbreak High. And she said, can you please do a debrief on this? So very reluctantly, I watched this show. I sort of feel like, I'm 42 years old watching a show aimed at teenagers. It does seem a little bit beneath me. But, I'm actually really glad that I did because I have a teenage daughter and I've got, 4 other kids who are approaching those years. And like I said with Kinda Pregnant, I watched that so you wouldn't have to. Guys, I really took a hit for the team last night when I watched Heartbreak High. I watched it so that you never have to, because the Netflix reboot of Heartbreak High is honestly of your worst imagination. Everything that you despise of the woke religion, they've just managed to pack it into the one show. So it's your typical diversity lineup. They've got, one black person, one brown person, one lesbian, one gay person, one trans person, literally, identity politics and a so-called marginalized group. They're in there. They're in the show. And when you look at the reviews of the show, they just got so many accolades for being so diverse, when in actual fact, it's just nauseating. And then who the evil characters are? They're the white guy, the super privileged white guy who's running for school captain. I got this all from just one episode, so I can't imagine, I've watched the entire season. But the episode that I watched, it was the episode around who's going to be school captain. And, there was an Asian girl running for it, a brown girl and a white guy. And the white guy is the evil character. He's this self-important, privileged white man who's had everything, given to him on a silver platter. He's now dating a brown girl, or trying to date a brown girl. So he's feeling like, he's getting a lot of shaming from her about, his white male privilege. It's actually just impossible to watch. And yet you're thinking this is one of the most popular shows on Netflix. When they released season 1, it actually took not just Australia, but the world by storm. It was in the top 10 for 2 weeks globally as the most watched show. And yet it's a show that just couldn't be more pathetic and woke. They talk about colonialism. There's a male teacher who gets the boys to do manual labor. This is all just from the one episode I watched. I gleaned it. That male teacher is shown to be a complete misogynist, and getting the guys to do manual labor is seen as toxic masculinity. I'm literally not making this up. It's from the Kamala Harris, left-wing playbook of just everything you hate about the radical left is in this show. And yet it's actually, aimed at teenagers. And so this is what our teenagers are watching. And I haven't even got to the abortion scene yet. And in this show, everybody's having sex. There's gay sex, heterosexual sex, but the norm in these relationships is that the kids are sexually active. And so one thing that I really took away from it as a parent was you have to be so aware of what your kids are watching, because Heartbreak High should be at the absolute top of the must never let my children see this show list. It's just brainwashing propaganda from an agenda that will harm your kids and lead to anxiety and depression and lifelong mental health issues, because of the way it glorifies victim status and the way it glorifies really unhealthy behaviours. And it's everything you don't want your child to become is encapsulated in this show. And that's before we get to the scene on abortion. So the scene on abortion starts right from the beginning as the show opens up, because I'm watching this show for you guys. I'm thinking, how long is it going to take to get to the point? But literally the opening scene of the show is this young woman in a pharmacy, and you see the pharmacist give her mifepristone. So these are abortion drugs, and there's a close-up shot on it. And then the next bit that unfolds is she's in the pharmacy with her friend. She's putting on sunglasses while she's got these abortion drugs, and she glimpses her mum, and she immediately drops to the floor, her and her friend, because it's clear that she hasn't told her mum that she's pregnant. I just want to make the point right here that I actively have the conversation with my children, particularly my daughter who's 14, which is if you get pregnant unexpectedly, obviously I don't want you to get pregnant now. I don't think you should be in relationships or sexually active. This is not the best season for you to be doing that. You've got to explore your giftedness as a teenager. You've got to work hard, do your sport, really aspire to things in your life. And, attaching yourself to some guy that's probably not going to be a part of your life, like 99.9% unlikely to be your life partner, that's just a waste of your time. And if you want to live like a fulfilled, meaningful life, this is not the time to be engaging in that kind of relationship. So that's the sort of conversation I have with my teenage daughter. But I still give her the caveat that if you are going to fall pregnant, if you do do it your own way and you unexpectedly fall pregnant, you have to tell me, because I will be there for you. I will support you, and you will feel like your life is crashing down all over you. But, I will help you have that baby and raise that baby, and Dad will, and that's our family. And so, the first thing that I take when I look at this is just how sad it is that there'd be lots of girls in this predicament of taking these, DIY abortion drugs at home to kill their baby without ever having told, their mother. And that's something that sort of actually just broke my heart a bit as a mum as I watched this little scene unfold. And because this show is part of the woke religion, they've got an ideological agenda. It's not like they actually pointed this out as a poignant, sad scene, as a heartbreaking scene, as this little girl, because that's essentially what she is. She's a little girl all alone with this massive decision with a baby growing inside of her. And instead they just make it sort of comical that she has to drop to the floor and like crawl out of there with her friend. And, it sort of speaks to the fact that it's not just that this is the wrong season for her to be being sexually active. It's actually that the best time to be having children is when you are in a stable, married relationship and you've made that lifelong commitment to each other. And I know a lot of marriages fail, but marriage is the best place to be having children, because you've at least made that commitment that you are going to be with each other. And it's best for kids, it's best for you. And yet, you get none of this from this show. And I think about the generations of kids who are watching this show and taking this as gospel. So after getting these drugs, she goes to her ex-boyfriend's house and she wants to tell him that she's pregnant. But he ends up being a bit of a jerk. They don't have a conversation about it properly. And he actually just says to her, I don't want you in my life. Do whatever you want with yours. And that's where that scene ends. They then switch to her in a room with her best friend about to take these drugs. Let's take a look at what happens.
I mean, I already made my decision. I was just telling him to be decent. Daddy's a deadbeat. Sorry, baby. It's not funny. And don't call it baby. We need a code name. Like Little Feets.
As in Little Fetus?
It's a good name.
So straight away there you see this, quite raw dialogue in that she's crushed by the fact that she didn't end up having a conversation with her ex-boyfriend about this. And her friend says, daddy's a deadbeat, and calls the child within her a baby. And she immediately reacts and says, no, we can't call this a baby, we need a code name. And she says, how about Little Feets, as in little fetus? We see right there and then the dehumanization of the baby within her, of the human being, this vulnerable, defenseless, voiceless child within her. We see that dehumanization up front. And it is like it really exposes what the other side has done so effectively, like they've called these babies in utero a clump of cells or a parasite or a fetus. And these words are used to help us disconnect from the fact that when a mother gets pregnant, when a girl gets pregnant or a woman gets pregnant, they are pregnant with a human baby, their child. And she actually says, I can't think about that. I can't use that language. In order to make this decision to kill my own flesh and blood, we have to have a code name. And the code name they come up with is Little Feets. Let's watch what happens next.
Whatever, I just want it out of me ASAP so I can get on with shit.
So let's drop.
Okay, so the pills need to be taken 48 hours apart. We both know maths really isn't my forte, but if I take the first one now, then I should be sweet for the debate tomorrow and crowning of school captain the next day. That works, right? Yeah. Well, here's nothing.
How do you feel? You're a dickhead.
What strikes me is that no one has told this young woman what taking these drugs will do to her or her baby. They've clearly just given them to her. And so she thinks, oh, I can just take this pill. And her friend says, let's drop, just flippantly, like kill my child by taking this pill. But then I can do the debate the next day for school captain, and then the day after be crowned school captain in front of all my peers. She has literally no idea what's going to happen to her body in the next 24 to 48 hours. She thinks it's just like popping a Panadol, and that's because of the propaganda campaign. They said, oh, these pills, they're safer than Tylenol, they're safer than Panadol, when in fact, they are the most dangerous method of abortion there is. There's a 6% complication rate. There's a high likelihood that this baby could get stuck inside of her and she will have to rush to a hospital, to emergency, so that she doesn't die. Because if that baby is allowed to exist within her, she could go sepsis, and those retained products of conception, that's what they're called, that could kill her. She could hemorrhage out. She could need a blood transfusion. At the very least, it's going to be extremely painful. There's no way that she's going to be able to do a debate the next day and rock up to school. And yet that's what she thinks. She's been given these pills, presumably through a GP via a telehealth abortion, or maybe she went to the doctor in person, but nobody has told her what the next 24 hours to 48 hours is going to look like. And that's shocking. There's just this naivety and this flippancy about something that is actually so serious for her. It could have life-threatening consequences. It definitely has life-threatening consequences for her child. And then, the show's producers, and they talk about this actually in the analysis of how they did this abortion scene. They said, we wanted to talk about abortion, but we wanted to do it in a way that was humorous and engaged with the Gen Z audience. So, they're talking about this really dark subject matter, but then, she's pretending to be hurt afterwards as a joke, and her friend's like, oh, you're such an idiot. And again, it's like what they did in Kinda Pregnant, where they're making these jokes, but they're seriously unfunny. They're dangerously unfunny in the level of deception that comes with them. The next scene is the very next day, where she's clearly taken these pills, gone to bed, and she's walking into school.
Whatever you need today, babe. Chippies, Reiki, aquarium therapy. Do you even want to be here? Because I could call in a bomb threat.
Thanks, but no need for special treatment.
Stoic style coping. Respect.
The way I see it, this is pretty much just like the time I got that weird mole cut out. If there's something growing inside me that's going to ruin my life, I'm going to sort it out.
And that sums up the pro-abortion method, doesn't it? Getting your baby out is nothing. It's like getting a mole out. It's like a part of your body. There's no recognition that this is another human being, a distinct, unrepeatable individual human being that you are intentionally killing. And then, she says, I just want to get it out of me because it's ruining my life. It's almost like a hernia or something, like a lump or a cancer, like it's ruining my life. I need to get rid of it. But there's no recognition of what's really going on. And she's walking into the school, and yet the very next scene, a few moments later, is we start to see this chemical abortion unfold for her. And this is a bit of the show that I think is good, because there's this blasé attitude around killing your baby at home, that it's just going to be a quick, easy thing, when in fact, time and time again, women have come forward and said, this is not what it was like. I thought I was going to die. And, it was like a scene from a murder. These are some of the things that women say when they take these abortion drugs. And we do see a bit of that in this, because she starts to cramp. And then the next thing we see is her on the phone with the abortion line, giving us some advice about what to do next. Let's watch.
Yeah, she took the first pill around 8 o'clock last night. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to put you on speakerphone.
Okay, great.
Let me... Yeah.
Hi, Anne-Marie. From what your friend has described to me, I don't think you need to worry. Have you started bleeding yet?
No, it's cramping like hell.
That's okay. That's normal. Sounds like your body might be trying to jumpstart the process.
Awesome. Okay, well, do I even bother taking the second pill?
Yes, take it now. It might still take a while to expel all the tissue. If you develop a fever, call back, okay?
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Where's the other pill?
I'll get it. Sorry.
Oh,
my stupid body, why is it doing this to me? I know, baby. It sucks, I'm sorry.
I should have waited till after the debate. All that work. I can't believe I'm gonna miss it.
It's okay, baby, just keep breathing. It's gonna be okay.
I feel sad for her when I see this, like as a mum seeing this girl just struggling and not got any real support around. Like we're meant to think that this is support. You know, if you read the synopsis of the show, it talks about how this is a really uplifting abortion story because she's got her best friend and the ex-boyfriend who was a jerk but now comes good around her, and it's meant to be like, oh, she was so supported through her abortion. When in reality, I look at her and I think you're in like some dungeon room at school, some dirty, unhygienic room with these two people who are kids themselves. You're in tremendous pain, and you know, it's just really sad. She's like, I'm going to miss the debate. Why did I do this now? And it's like, well, long term, there's going to be a lifelong trauma from this. You know, that debate doesn't matter. The being school captain doesn't matter. The fact that you killed your baby, the data shows, is going to have long-term trauma for her. She's at a higher risk of depression, anxiety, suicide, all because of this decision right now. And she's in tremendous physical pain. And the abortion clinic, they're like, oh, you don't need to worry, just take the second pill. And the reason they're saying take the second pill is to cover their own asses, because if she doesn't take the second pill, then this whole thing is incomplete. And again, could have even greater health risks for her. So, you know, no one is really giving her the love and care that she actually needs in this moment. The next scene flicks to the abortion as it progresses.
I don't really know what I'm looking for.
No, it's a bunch of cells the size of a pinhead. You won't see anything.
Turns out it's nothing like getting a mole removed.
Oh, hey.
So they open up the toilet and they presumably look at her dead baby, which they don't show us, the pregnancy tissue, all of the blood. And again, her friend says, oh, it's just a clump of cells, which is just, you know, the dehumanizing language we talked about before. But it's not only that, it's also pro-abortion propaganda, because countless women are now coming forward and saying, I took these pills at home and I saw my dead baby. I came face to face with my dead baby. In fact, look at this picture that we're going to flick up now, which, you know, a woman has shared of her DIY abortion and what she then saw. She's confronted with fingers and toes and a face. And, you know, the show doesn't show us that. And they further this pro-abortion agenda where they, you know, a teenager watching this is probably thinking, oh, she's just looking at a bit of blood in the toilet. You know, and yet that's not what women see when they do a DIY abortion at home. And then she says it was nothing like getting a mole removed. And that is true. That is the clincher. There's this moment of searing honesty. And that happened in Kind of Pregnant as well, that amidst all of the pro-abortion propaganda ideology and jokes that were in there, there's this moment of truth where the main character gets stabbed in the stomach by this toddler and she's got a fake pregnancy. And so as a result, you know, her baby isn't getting hurt and killed by that. But all of us, the whole audience, takes a collective gasp, even though we know it's a fake pregnancy, because we know that if that toddler had stabbed her in the belly, that actually would have killed her or hurt her child. And just like in this moment, there's this collective kind of, you know, she says it wasn't like getting a mole removed, because it's not.
I got you.
It's over.
That was an event.
Hey, glad we had tickets.
VIP section.
I'm okay.
Lil Feat's album just dropped.
Oh my God.
And I just think of the millions of kids watching this show who think, that's it. Okay, yeah, she was heartbroken, she's clearly distressed, but then she flushes the toilet and her baby is gone forever And she makes this joke, Little Feat's album just dropped, and that's it. They joke and, it moves on to the next scene. And then the very next scene, the kids get into a cake fight at school, and she's under the table, hidden by this tablecloth, with this guy, a new guy that she starts flirting with, and then they make out. And, it's just like, well, basically what this show has shown is you can just get an abortion, just like you can cut your hair, just like you can take a contraceptive pill, just like you can go get your nails done. It's just part and parcel of being a teenager. And yes, it's hard and it's a bit traumatic, but ultimately you can flush it down the toilet and move on with your life. And that's actually not the truth. The overwhelming data, the stories coming through of women, but also the peer-reviewed data speaks to the lifelong adverse health effects from having an abortion. And it's not just mental health effects, but it's physical health effects. And yet you don't get that from this show, which is just propaganda. So it's a dark episode, but it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be just part of, Heartbreak High season 2. It's them being a bit edgy, confronting the topics that we don't confront. And yet what it really is effectively doing is it's brainwashing our kids. It's brainwashing our teenagers. And so I watched Heartbreak High so that you don't have to. Make sure you spread the word that it is not a safe show and that it has an agenda. And I'll see you next time on The Dr. Jo Show.